So how did the concept of stewardship by shareholders come about?
Well, it's got its roots in the corporate governance reforms. When the idea of corporate governance reform came about in the early 90s, you see references to stewardship in that. And some of the things that Sir Adrian Cadbury said, he was talking about the need for better stewardship of organisations. The idea of shareholders taking a greater role in it, that sort of gathered pace during the 2000s. And particularly after the financial crisis, there was a sense that there was something wrong with British capitalism. There were charges of short-termism, something wrong with the way we ran organisations that had enabled, despite having all this corporate governance in place, a series of financial organisations to trash the world economy. So that's really where it has its roots.
And what are the main issues that shareholder stewardship is supposed to tackle?
Well, originally it was about another safeguard against sudden and catastrophic corporate collapse. But what you see again over the 2000s, you see shareholders should be looking at the interests of the wider society. So not just the interests of the company and the interests of its shareholders, but what is the impact is the company having on society as a whole. So this is where you get the environmental and the social angle coming in. You are now expecting shareholders to keep an eye on excessive executive pay. What is it that companies are doing that might harm the environment, this kind of thing. We're expecting shareholders to become the guardians of greater corporate social responsibility.
And in your research for the report, did you find that there was a view that boards don't pay enough attention to ESG issues? And I'm thinking particularly of climate change.
Yes, I think the underlying the whole idea of shareholder stewardship is the sense that corporate governance reforms were supposed to make company executives behave better. So we have a series of rules, and then we have some non-executive directors who are supposed to hold them to account. That didn't work because it didn't prevent the financial crisis, didn't prevent a whole load of other bad things from happening. So let's take it one step back and get the shareholders to put pressure on the boards to make some of this stuff happen. So I think it was a sense that the initial corporate governance regime had failed. And then what you get at the end of the decade, the end of this decade, is those themes coming together. So you have a new stewardship code proposed in 2019, which really pulls a lot of those strands together. So we have the idea of shareholders taking greater responsibility, and that they have a greater responsibility for ensuring that companies don't misbehave in ways that are socially destructive or going to damage the environment. So all these threads that you see over the past 2 decades, they kind of come together in that corporate governance code.